Nick, you have taken a pretty deep dive into the Buffalo film, what they're about, what they're looking for. We kind of want to pick your brain. I kind of want to pick your brain about what you have seen and what this team kind of brings. Let's start with the big question. You've been watching Josh Allen. It's going to be a snow game. He's as good at scoring touchdowns as he is interceptions. When you look at Josh Allen in the film this year, how dangerous is he? How dangerous is he in a game where maybe he's not going to be able to throw the football as much or as accurately as he kind of hopes to?
See, that's the interesting thing about Josh Allen is in terms of like guys I've seen throw the football. I don't think there are like 3 human beings in NFL history who have that type of arm strength that he has to be able to cut the ball through the wind. So
Good.
it's going to be a very weird like, can he be able to like throw it as effectively in like wind conditions type as this? But the thing that makes a huge difference is Allen is such a massive threat with his legs. Like, he's almost goofy the way he runs off contact, and just like he tries to shrug it off, or he'll like put his shoulder down. Like, he's almost like reckless to very very high standards. Like, it's crazy with the way he runs the football. He has about 21 turnover worthy plays, which is tied for like 10th on PFF's charting. But he also is like near the top of the league in 37 big time throws, which is like that's just behind Dak Prescott. And you see it with the way he's very big play oriented with how he he looks down the field. We saw it in the Miami game where like he passes up a layup. He has a guy wide open underneath. He has a very favorable leverage look. And what he ends up doing, he looks right at it, and then he just passes it up. He rolls out, and then he throws the dumbest, like, what the frick are you doing type throw into the end zone, and it gets picked off. But it wasn't enough to derail Buffalo in that game. And I just think like Allen playing freely, it's just something you just embrace at that point. In some ways, it reminds me of Roethlisberger during his prime, where he had those types of plays happen, and it almost didn't matter. And I think Allen, to a degree, is that type of player, because like he can attack all levels of the field. Mm-hmm. And I think he does a good job of getting through his progressions, getting backside. Like, he's way better post snap than people will give him credit for. People think he might get tricked too often, like in the pre-snap phase, but he has a way of adapting whenever the post snap read does not fully match. I'm overall impressed with Josh Allen. He's probably up there with like the most terrifying quarterbacks Pittsburgh's played this entire season. I mean, probably right there with like Matthew Stafford and them, maybe even Geno Smith. I mean, Geno Smith played incredible in that Seattle game.
Yeah. I mean, Josh Allen, I mean, that's like been the story of his career, right? Like, he makes some plays that make you want to pull your hair out, but he's also, kind of a game-changing talent in that way. So you kind of got to live with the mistakes if you're going to get those incredible plays that really make him a transcendent player. What I want to ask you, Nick, is how, at least by the eye test, I felt like the running game has really supported Josh Allen and that Bills offense in a big way, especially recently. Like, kind of since they've been on this run, like a little bit Steelers-esque, as they've gone on this winning streak to kind of end the year and gone on this hot streak to end the year. It's been like a lot of James Cook as well, in addition to Josh Allen making some cool plays. What have you seen from them in that area?
So this was interesting under Ken Dorsey before he got like demoted or fired, however you might interpret it. They were like towards the top in like rushing EPA, like efficiency and like success rate, and they still are around there. They're like I think they're like 5th right now. Like since Joe Brady's taken over, they still finished 2nd overall though in rushing EPA and rushing success rate. And I think the biggest difference though, the way you see them use James Cook, it feels like Cook has been more of a matchup player, and they've been trying to isolate him on linebackers and really get him in on those choice routes, those angle routes. and you really see him be effective. They like to split him out wide too. Like he's definitely one of those guys who, as a running back, he has great receiver skills in terms of being able to get open. That said, he has drop issues. He has 6 drops on the season. One of them came in the Miami game on a perfect pass, and it was just he let it go right through his breadbasket. Like that's definitely, and then you account for the snow and then the cold wind. Like that's going to be tough for a guy like that to overcome. That's what's going to be interesting. They tried using Fournette a little bit in that Miami game, and I'm wondering if they might actually like bring him out more in this game, almost to be like more of a sledgehammer, because it wouldn't shock me if they're just if both these teams are just kind of just like pounding the rock inside the almost the entire game, because they can't really get much going offensively. And you know, on the injury report, it's hard to tell with the Bills because everything is so like unspecified on who's actually hurt.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be big if Gabe Davis can't go. As much as I am like a detractor of like Gabe Davis and like, his full on talent, he is the type of guy that can vertically stretch you in a way that like Stephon Diggs, like he is constantly like in all other areas of the field. Gabe is that guy who's consistently going up the field, and he's getting those favorable matchups. Like he's not going up against Porter or Micah Fitzpatrick.
What kind of guys do you see behind him? You see Gabe, I mean, obviously Gabe Davis. I'm with you, but Gabe Davis at the same time also lit up the Steelers last season and became. I mean, I'm almost positive Levi Wallace still sees him in his nightmares. You look at the guys behind him. Shakur's been having a good season. What else is there? And also, can you stretch the field? Like in your opinion, you've watched a lot of football. We've watched a lot of football. You said Josh Allen might be the scariest person when it comes to something like this and being able to slice through. Can you slice through 60 mile per hour? Like, is that even a thing? Like, could you even possibly fathom that concept if as somebody who just analyzes the game?
It's definitely hard to understand because like if you would just go out there in like 15-degree weather as like a normal person, or like 15 mile per hour winds as like just a normal person, and then you see the way the ball gets carried, you're just like, well, crap, man, I guess I can't throw the football. And then you see like the 6'5" goblins of human beings like Josh Allen, and just the types of RPMs that they could generate on the football. And it wouldn't shock me, but it also wouldn't shock me if he doesn't end up having nearly as much success as I think he can have.
Yeah,
I do think, in terms of the weapons, I think this is where Pittsburgh can match up kind of well. I would have been worried a lot about Dalton Kincaid, but the fact that they're getting Minka Fitzpatrick back, they can have him play more on top of him, limit those choice routes that they have him running, those option routes within the slot. Buffalo likes to use a little bit of 12 personnel. They were heavy on it with Dorsey early to start the season before Dawson Knox went down. And then they kind of like, I won't say they went away from it. They basically streamlined it more. Like it's still in their offense, and they've been a little bit more fit. They've been more efficient out of 12 than when they were a heavy 12 personnel team.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, Dawson Knox, he can still make some plays after the catch. He's still a really good athlete.
Yeah.
But
yeah, dude's a stud. I love Dawson Knox, actually. He's like one of my, like, it stinks whenever you play somebody that you actually like really respect. But I like Dawson Knox since the second he joined the league. I was like, this dude's a stud. Freaking love that guy.
Yeah, Knox is a very good dude, and I liked listening to him in interviews and stuff like that. You could tell he's really like a Buffalo type of player. They embrace him, and I really respect that. But Khalil Shakir is I like seeing him come through down the stretch because I liked him as a day 3 wide receiver. Yeah. But when it comes to like the things he provides, I think it's just toughness over the middle. He's just a guy who can like, he'll catch it and he'll take a big hit and he'll still be able to get up. The yards after the catch is a big thing with him because he's got that type of balance to shrug off a hit and keep going. And obviously, Stephon Diggs is one of the best
Stefon
receivers in
Diggs.
the is one of the best receivers in the league. He'll be going up against Porter. I think that's just going to be a fun matchup, and I'm excited to see it. Even if the weather conditions end up overall limiting the Buffalo passing game.
Yeah, 100%. Go ahead, Steven.
Yeah, I mean, so just kind of switching over to the defensive side of the ball, like how have they handled losing all those linebackers that they did to injury, and like how, because watching that Miami game again, I think it was his last name's Bernard, forget the first name.
Terrell Bernard.
He had a huge game. Like he's been playing real well. How have they been able to fill those gaps?
They've had, honestly, I think it comes down. I think some people don't give Brandon Beane enough credit for some of his like late draft picks, like guys like Christian Benford or Terrell Bernard. Those guys have been filling in such huge roles, and they've looked pretty good doing it. And especially down the stretch, McDermott has this team playing like lights out football. I think it's since like week 14 there in terms of like, teams forcing the fourth worst dropback EPA in the passing game. And, the only teams better than them in that regard are New England, Cleveland, and the Jets. And that's pretty good company to be in. On the flip side, though, they're 26th in rushing EPA, and they're vulnerable there. And I think this is where Pittsburgh, they like the matchup. This is where they're going to try and attack them. And I definitely think it can work out for them.
Yeah, 100%. Let me stick with the defense on this last one here. Turnover heavy team. That's it's almost like live or die off the turnovers. Does it hold up? Is it limited? Because I don't want to say like, oh, is it real? Because it is real. It's got them to this point. They're on a 5-game winning streak. In my opinion, they are probably the scariest team in the NFL right now outside of Baltimore. The question more so is it capable in the snow? For a team that's probably going to run the football a lot in Pittsburgh, that's probably going to go intermediate to very short passes and 60-degree winds. Can you still live or die off of the turnovers and be a successful defense?
I do think there's a degree of how successful you can be, dealing with like a bad turnover differential. Yeah. I think it very much comes down to where you turn the ball over and field position and stuff like that. Like that's going to matter, especially in a game like this, where the wind condition, like a turnover at like the 3-yard line is going to be way different than like a turnover inside of like, the opponent's like 25 yard line. Like that it's going to make such a huge difference. And I think, both these teams, they do a great job of forcing turnovers. I think the biggest addition was Rasul Douglas in that trade. He's really just shown a knack for being able to, just show really good zone instincts. Like he consistently, understands where routes are in front of him. He immediately jumps like the route like in front of him. Like there are so many good things that he does there, and he can match up pretty well in man coverage. It was definitely something they needed, because losing Trey White for the season was like, that's a hard thing to overcome. Like those are the types of losses that can break a team.
100%. Let me jump back. I do have one more. It just popped in my head, and it actually is a very important one. Joey Porter probably going to shadow Stephon Diggs, but he's never played a guy. He's never shadowed a guy to this point that has played as much slot as Stephon Diggs does. Is that capable? Is it, because that's a challenge. That's, people don't understand. I mean, a lot of people do, but some don't understand that it is a totally different game to play in the slot than it is on the outside as a corner. Is it capable, and how capable is it to shadow somebody to the inside if that's what Porter's going to do? And it kind of sounds like that's what the Steelers' plan is for him to do.
I mean, Porter definitely has that type of capability. He is plenty fluid in terms of being able to handle himself. He has that length to be able to shut him down at the line of scrimmage. As if he can keep hands on him, he doesn't have to worry too much about like the fact that like the slot can be different. Now, those slot fades, those are like the most terrifying thing to defend if you're a slot defender. And if you're going up against Stephon Diggs in that situation, like those are the types of plays like on shot concepts where you really have to be on it. Like that's going to be a big test for Porter, regardless whether he's playing outside or in. It's Stephon Diggs. He has one of the best release packages in all football. He's one of the best route runners, and he can just burn you over the top. Like he's one of those guys who is just a complete all-around receiver, and it's going to be box office football, as I like to say.
I am very excited. That's a matchup for me personally that I have all eyes on, especially in the snow, especially when it gets physical. Everybody's going to be watching. I think a big play through the air could be the absolute game changer for this one, and that is a matchup for Joey Porter Jr.